Hello everybody. Welcome to another edition of Business Communication with me, Dr. Premanand. Today we are going to talk about a very important topic, which is barriers to communication. A communication barrier is anything that comes in the way of receiving and understanding messages that one sends to another to convey his ideas, thoughts, or any other kind of information. These various barriers of communication block or interfere with the message that someone is trying to send. There are numerous barriers to effective communication that can come in the way because the message is sent by the sender and it may not be understood by exactly as it is meant to be. It can get distorted. These different types of communication barriers can come at any stage in the process of communication. Alternatively, it can come because of the bias or stereotyping and generalization that exists in the workplace. A skilled communicator must pay attention to the different types of barriers to effective communication and try to prevent them. These barriers of communication can be overcome by active listening and reflection. The communicator must seek feedback from the receiver of the information to check if the message was understood in its true sense. So this happens in the workplace. These barriers of communication can creep in at any point of time. So let's see what the barriers to communication are. Number one, they are the physical barriers. The physical barriers are the most obvious of effective communication. These barriers are most easily removable, at least in principle. They include barriers like noise, or closed doors, or faulty equipment, or poor lighting, outdated equipments. Like for example, nowadays most of the computers would have facility stored in the cloud, and if the machines are not able to take that, they can be termed as outdated computers. Then you might also have background noise while you're listening, maybe through your headphones. There might be staff shortage also, in the sense that maybe you might have to get up and get something instead of having someone else go out and take a printout for you. There could also be distances. Too much of distance between one person to the other you would not be able to hear much if there is no microphone or if there are no speakers. These different physical barriers are certain barriers that we must avoid. Poor lighting, outdated equipments, background noise, staff shortage, and distances. Now there are also personal barriers. Personal barriers would be like the difference in judgment or social values. Sometimes even inferiority complex creeps in, or a bias towards someone, or the attitude towards your manager. So these are between the communicator and the person whom you are communicating with. Credibility gap, sometimes also inconsistency between what one says and what one does, also acts as a barrier to communication. Your age and where you come from have a lot to do with how you communicate with your superiors or your juniors. Personal barriers to communication are often attitudes that can be changed. For instance, multiple generations sometimes hold stereotypes about one another. For example, the elder people might call the younger people as brash, or that they seek to do everything very fast, while the youth members of the organization might term the elders as those who do not know much of technology, or that they are always out of touch, or they really aren't in sync. So treating each person as an individual instead of making assumptions about a group can help break down the age barrier. Then there are psychological barriers. Psychological barriers, when a person's mind is distracted or occupied with other things, The person is not able to form proper messages, listen to what the others tell him or her, or interpret the message as required and give proper feedback. So the communication will thus become problems and will become ineffective. So lack of attention, premature evaluation is another big problem. Sometimes you see the speaker or see the manager and automatically you evaluate him as a person, let's say he does not know anything, or he is not as tech smart as us and things like that. Emotions can also play a lot of role in as psychological barrier, and a closed mind. You have a person coming in and immediately you close your mind as if he doesn't know anything and things like that. So there are other examples, like a person, suppose there is a death in the family and he wouldn't want to listen to anyone at that particular point of time because his mind would not be really in that meeting, or the person might be preoccupied with some professional problems or some problems of his personal life. So many people have a tendency to jump to conclusions directly and form judgments without considering all the aspects of information. This premature evaluation of the information acts as a barrier to effective communication. The communication is greatly influenced by the emotions of a person. If the person is not in good temperament, then he would not listen properly to whatever is said and might say things sometimes even offending the sender. Such emotions also include anger, nervousness, confusion, restlessness. All these affect the communication process, and they are all psychological barriers. You also have language and cultural barriers. Here, difficulties in communication arise when the sender and the receiver of the message use words or symbols in different senses. The meaning intended by the sender may be quite different from the meaning followed by the receiver. People interpret the message in terms of their own behavior and experiences. Sometimes the language used by the sender may not at all be followed by the receiver. Often, people working in the technical groups such as engineers or production managers or IT managers use what you call technical jargons. Thus the use of technical jargons in communication can act as a barrier. For example, in, let's say, words with different meanings, the word draft, D-R-A-F-T. The noun draft refers to a draft of air, current of air in an enclosed space, for example. So let's say you open the door, there might be a draft of cold air coming in. Now, draft used as a noun again refers to a version of a document or a plan or a drawing. So a rough draft is a version that has not been revised, and the final draft would be the final version of it. Now, the same thing, if a country has a draft, then it means that all the citizens must obligatorily participate in the military. So draft can be a verb in this case. A person can be drafted to serve in the military. So you see, words with different meanings can also happen. And sometimes certain words may have a bad expression in certain countries. So you have to be careful about all these. These are the different barriers to communication. I hope you have enjoyed this. Please subscribe to the channel for more videos. Also, please look into the playlist because there are a number of videos available for business communication, and I'm sure you would appreciate and you would see them. Please do comment also so that we can take in your suggestions and do much better in the coming videos. Thank you very much. Bye.